Azalea has long been the laughingstock of Flesh and Blood, being widely regarded as one of the weakest heroes to come out of a draft set. But no longer. With the release of Dynasty, Azalea got a lot of powerful new tools, and is now a legitimately viable hero. Let's hop right into it. This is a deck tech for Blitz Azalea. Azalea herself has the ability to replace her arsenal with the top card of your library. If the card happens to be an arrow, it'll gain Dominate. This can be a powerful ability, but it's got some problems. Using Azalea in the past could be pretty clunky, as often enough you won't know what's on top of your library to make the switch. She does have a number of cards that manipulate the top of her deck, which can be pretty helpful, but if she doesn't have an arsenal when it happens, she won't actually be able to use her ability properly. Luckily, these are problems no more, as Dynasty gave us the perfect bow for Azalea to use. The Sandscour Greatbow allows you to look at the top card of your library and play an arrow from either your hand or on top of your deck with an aim counter on it. This checks off both the issues I talked about earlier, as it allows you to look at the top card of your deck, letting you know if there's something worth using Azalea's ability on. Not to mention, if you manage to get a powerful arrow on top of your deck, but don't have an arsenal to sub out, well, that's no longer an issue either, as the bow will let you play the card directly from the top of your library. With that, the two main weaknesses of Azalea have been accounted for. And with a new bow in tow, let's get to the arrows we'll be shooting out of it. First off is the Azalea specialization, Red on the Ledger. Probably the strongest arrow we've got. If it hits, it restricts your opponent to a single action on their next turn. For a lot of heroes, this can be absolutely devastating, even more so when you use Azalea's ability to give the arrow Dominate, which will leave most of their hand intact, while still only letting them play a single action. Alongside it, we're running Remorseless, a powerful arrow that doesn't exactly restrict the user's actions on hit, but will force them to pay a life for every action card they play. If this arrow is played face up, it stops defense reactions from Arsenal, a useful ability, especially in combination with Dominate. We also run Fatigue Shot, which has an on-hit to have the opponent's first attack action, a useful effect, especially against Guardians and Brutes who have massive attack actions. Sleep Dart is an arrow that can remove the opponent's hero ability, which can completely cripple heroes like Chain or Dromai that count on their hero powers to make their offense work. We also run Barraging Bolt, which is currently the biggest arrow in the game. It has a powerful ability to force discards of non-action cards on hit, so it's really good against warriors and assassins who carry a lot of attack reactions. We run Blue Headshot mainly just for pitching, but if we can't find any of our other arrows, this card has quite a high damage output for a blue card, so it's useful in a pinch. Finally, for the arrows, we run 6 copies of Bolton Shot, one of the strongest arrows in the game. As long as you buff the arrow, it gains Go Again and Reload on hit. This is one of the only ways in the deck to shoot off multiple arrows in a turn, so it's an important card in our strategy. And while our bow doesn't actually give any extra attack power, we run a plethora of other buff cards to help Bolton Shot and our other arrows gain attack. Read the Glide Path is a powerful +3 buff that also lets us opt 1, helping us manipulate the top of our deck to make sure powerful arrows are there for Azalea's effect or the Greatbow. We also run Take Aim, another powerful arrow buff, with Reload, a useful effect to get a card immediately into your arsenal. We also run Release the Tension, which works not only as a buff, but also makes defense reactions unplayable from Arsenal, an extremely useful effect when paired with the Dominate ability of Azalea. Then there's Seek and Destroy, a buff that stops your opponent from retaining any cards or even an arsenal on their next turn. This card can be extremely powerful with a dominated Red on the Ledger, as it takes away most of their turn along with their arsenal next turn. From the new set, we are running Deadeye. If you recall, the Greatbow gives aim counters to arrows when you load with it, and with Deadeye, those arrows will allow you to remove any specific card from your opponent's hand on hit. A crazy powerful effect that makes this a must block for the opponent. We also run the powerhouse Plunder Run, a powerful generic buff from Arsenal with card draw attached to it. Plunder Run is banned in CC, and for good reason. It's a very strong card. Finally, we play Rain Razor, a card that can buff all our arrows at instant speed, working basically as an attack reaction. A powerful card, especially in combination with Bolton Shot, which will let us chain together a lot of arrows, all of which will get the buff in question. That's all the buffs. Alongside them, we run the other Azalea specialization, Knock the Death Whistle, which can tutor for an arrow in your deck to go on top of your library for use with Azalea or your Greatbow. Yellow Memorial Grounds does the exact same thing, except it grabs the arrow from your graveyard to put on top of your library, allowing you to reuse your most powerful arrows multiple times. Blue Whispers of the Oracle is mainly used for pitching or blocking, but the Opt 2 can be useful for guaranteeing powerful arrows on top of your library in a pinch. Finally, we run Fate Foreseen as the only defense reaction of the deck. It's a powerful defense reaction, and the Opt 1, as discussed before, can be quite strong in this deck. That's it for the main board, on to the equipment. For the headpiece, we run the Skullbone Cross Strap, a helm that lets you reveal your arsenal to Opt 1, another good way to manipulate the top card of your library. For the chest piece, we've got the Deep Blue, for hands where we just don't draw the resources we need. Deep Blue gives you a one-time redo, changing a red card into an important blue to keep your hand functional. For the arm piece, we've got the Bullseye Bracer. Since our bow can only load a single arrow per turn, this can be important to help us go wide with attacks on occasion. Not to mention, it works in combination with our leg piece, the Snapdragon Scalers, which allows us to give one of our arrows go again, letting us go a bit wider with our attacks. In the sideboards, we run the Fiandral Spring Tunic and Hornet's Sting for the extra block value in matchups against aggressive decks like Ninja. The Tunic can gain us extra resources as well, and the Hornet's Sting can help us either deal damage or filter out the top of our library. Alongside these, we run the Null Rune Robes to hit that Arcane Barrier 3 against Wizards. Finally, although I mentioned how amazing I think the Sandscour Greatbow is, we do run a second bow, being the Dreadbow, a bow that stops defense reactions from being played from hand against our arrows. Since defense reactions are quite powerful against our deck, this is a must against many defensive decks like Guardian. It also combos quite well with the card Barraging Bolt, so keep that combo in mind in this matchup. And that's the deck. It's a powerful option, and I'm glad that Dynasty gave Azalea some new tools to support her. If you give the deck a try, I hope it treats you well, and if you enjoyed this deck tech, be sure to subscribe. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you guys later. Bye.